July 2025, Ouagadougou. This time, the drums didn't speak. The people did. From the tangled alleys of Bobo Dioulasso to the cracked, sun-hardened plains of Ouagadougou, something electric surged through the streets. Not panic, not protest. Something rarer. A celebration, not of what was given, but of what was built. For the first time in Africa's post-colonial history, a fully functional grain processing machine was unveiled. Not imported, not donated, not assembled from foreign kits, but conceived, engineered, and manufactured entirely by local hands. Burkina Faso had done the unthinkable. No aid packages. No European consultants. No offshore technicians flown in with briefcases and blueprints. Just Burkinabe minds. Burkinabe steel. Burkinabe resolve. And at the center of this moment stood one man, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Still, defiant, focused, a soldier who now commands a forge of a new kind of war, a war against dependence. He looked at the machine, then to the crowd, and declared, "This is not just about agriculture. This is the turning point of Africa's industrial revolution." And that machine, bolts, gears, humming belts, transformed before their eyes. No longer just a tool. Now a symbol, a manifesto cast in steel. The people didn't cheer out of ceremony. They cheered because they recognized themselves in what stood before them, not just as farmers or workers, but as builders. For decades, Africa was told what it couldn't do. This moment said, "We already are." Now, from ministry offices to millet fields, a single question echoes across the land. If we could build this, what else have we been told we cannot do? The machine doesn't look like much at first glance, a modest hulk of metal and grit, built in a workshop just outside Ouagadougou. But inside that frame beats a revolution. Its name, Traoré Unveils, unveiled to the public on June 28, 2025. It is the first fully indigenous grain processing machine in African history, not inspired by foreign models, not reverse engineered. Designed by Burkinabe engineers, fine-tuned by local farmers, calibrated for the rhythms of West African harvests, millet, sorghum, rice. And the numbers leave no doubt. 92% yield efficiency, 40% drop in energy consumption, post-harvest losses slashed, rural profits already rising in regions like Benora and Kapila. But this isn't just a technical triumph. It's a political and legal disruption. Until now, more than 80% of Burkina Faso's grain processing relied on second-hand, foreign manufactured machines, tools tied to proprietary software, restrictive maintenance contracts, spare parts priced in euros, delays and downtime dictated by overseas supply chains. They called it development, but it was a different kind of dependency, one coded in contracts instead of chains. Traoré Unveils breaks that cycle. Built under the principles of open agricultural access, it is reparable by any village mechanic, modifiable without corporate permission, owned by the communities that use it. No license fees, no offshore rights, no middlemen, and it's more than efficient. It's sovereign. This machine reclaims time, from months of waiting in queues for grain milling, to hours. It reclaims profit, from foreign firms back into village hands. And most importantly, it reclaims dignity that quiet forced colonization tried to erase. In village after village, the reaction is raw and unforgettable. Mothers weep. Elders nod in silence. Youths film it all on cracked smartphones. This machine is more than real. It's proof that Africa no longer needs to borrow its future. Because he didn't wait for permission. He didn't send grant proposals to Geneva or rehearse talking points for Paris. In February 2024, President Ibrahim Traoré walked into the National Assembly with a blueprint, not for negotiation, but for construction. While foreign media cast doubt and lenders hesitated, he faced his nation and said, "He who waits to be fed will never be full." Then he built. No consultants, no conferences, no applause from think tanks, just internal capacity, rural reinvestment, and Burkinabe engineering unleashed. The launch of Traoré Unveils wasn't just the debut of a machine. It was the unveiling of a doctrine. Indigenous innovation is national defense. Traoré's administration backed it with new legal frameworks, patent protections for local inventors, open rights for community use, financial prioritization for local hardware over foreign software. For the first time in modern Burkinabe history, law and industry aligned with the people, not over them. And this story is just beginning. March 2025, Burkina Faso. The revolution didn't stop at the machine. It spread to the law. In a move that stunned policy watchers and technocrats across the continent, local patents were protected by decree under the Sovereign Innovation Protection Act, passed unanimously by the Transitional Assembly. Procurement laws were rewritten. Ministries were restructured. From now on, Burkina Faso would buy from Burkinabe first. Public universities were given state-linked research mandates, binding classrooms to construction lines, theory to application. Professors once isolated in academic towers were now writing specs for grain crushers and solar welders. Graduation no longer meant leaving the country. It meant building it. But beyond the policies and paperwork, there was presence. Traoré showed up, not to wave flags, not to cut ribbons, but to work. He walked rice paddies in Bama, dust in his boots. He sat cross-legged in Passeri, eating millet beside machinists with grease-stained hands. He joined engineers at the Polytechnic of Ouagadougou, leaning in during trial runs, offering observations like a mechanic, not a politician. This wasn't leadership by spectacle. It was leadership by consequence. And yet the deeper question lingers across the continent like a dare. In a region still shaped by dependence and deferral, can one nation's internal revolution spark a collective awakening? The answer wasn't found in a German lab or a Silicon Valley pitch deck. It was born in a dusty warehouse just outside Zagtulaware, where welders worked barehanded. Sparks danced off concrete floors, and belief was the only currency they had. There, at the center of this industrial rebirth, stood two names, Suganuma and IAT. Suganuma, meaning good work in Moor, began in 2017 as a backstreet repair shop. Today, it's a national force, a private Burkinabe engineering firm designing rugged, high-efficiency agricultural machines tailored to Sahelian conditions. Their design motto? Build strong, build simple, build for the people who use it. But it was a collaboration with the Institute for Applied Research and Technology, IAT, that gave these blueprints their scientific spine. Under a government directive issued in April 2023, IAT partnered with Suganuma to develop what would become POA Korogo. Their research was guided by three mandates: durability under West Africa's toughest conditions, energy conservation that could beat diesel-based imports, precision standards that rival anything from global suppliers. Every weld, every rotor, every microflaw was tested not for European export criteria, but for Burkinabe soil, heat, and grain. Together, they didn't just build a machine. They built a model, a working symbiosis of public research and private production, grounded in national interest, free from neo-colonial patents, and governed by Burkina Faso's own Innovation Integrity Charter, passed in October 2024. This alliance sparked something larger than metal. It revived technical pride. It rewrote educational priorities. It reclaimed the idea that manufacturing could be sovereign. And now, as orders begin flooding in from Mali, Togo, and Niger, another question rises, not in boardrooms, but in village squares, in dusty factories, in classrooms retooled for relevance. What happens when Africa stops importing answers and starts building them together? Because POA Korogo doesn't just process grain. It redefines resilience. It was never designed to dazzle at international trade expos or sit behind glass at global tech summits. It was built to survive where people live. Dust, heat, blackouts, fatigue. And it does. Born in need, refined in field trials, its features speak with startling clarity to the African farmer. A dual crushing system for millet, maize, rice, fonio, even dried cassava and hard kernels. A manual/digital hybrid interface. No foreign software, just intuitive design and local logic. An industrial-grade second chamber for non-food uses. Nutshells, lime compaction, crushed stone for village roads. Field tested in the unforgiving hills of Yako and Zenar. The machine withstood over 2,000 continuous hours operation. No imported part ever did that here. Its specs speak volumes. 38% lower energy consumption than imported counterparts. A compact footprint, small enough to fit on a tricycle trailer. Tool-free maintenance, accessible to anyone with hands and common sense. Rust-resistant steel frame, made outlast a season, the rains, the years. This isn't a factory-bound monster. It's a community-scale solution built for smallholder farms, cooperatives, and village production hubs. It doesn't ask Africa to adapt to tech. It demands that tech adapt to Africa. Backed by the Local Equipment Empowerment Act of 2024, the machine is legally exempt from licensing fees in designated agrarian zones. That's not just a clause. That's legal liberation. Every crushed grain, every motor rotation, every village installation is a micro act of sovereignty, and the results are no longer theory. In just 6 months since the first POA Korogo rolled off the line in Zachtulaware, the change is visible, steady, measurable, unmistakable. Farmers who once paid 800,000 CFA francs for rusted second-hand grinders from Asia now invest less than half in something stronger, local, and fully reparable. And the buzz isn't just mechanical, it's generational. Local patents supported by decrees passed in March 2025 under the Sovereign Innovation Protection Act. Ministries restructure procurement laws to prioritize domestic creators. Public universities received research mandates linked directly to state production goals. But beyond policy, it was his presence. He visited rice farms in Bama. He ate millet with machinists in Paseri. He sat in on prototype testing at the Polytechnic of Ouagadougou, not as a photo op, but as a working partner. This is not leadership by spectacle. It is leadership by consequence. Yet, in a continent still shaped by dependence and deferral, can one leader's internal revolution ignite a collective awakening across nations? No, it didn't come from a German lab or a Silicon Valley startup. The machine that's now transforming Burkina Faso's food systems was born in a warehouse just outside Zag, Tulliware. Sparks fly, welders work without gloves, and faith in the nation's hands is the only capital. At the heart of this industrial rebirth stand two names, Suganuma and IAT. Suganuma, meaning good work and more, is a privately owned Burkinabe engineering firm founded in 2017. It has quietly grown from a local repair shop into a national force, designing high-efficiency agricultural machines tailored to the Sahel's unforgiving terrain. Its ethos: build strong, build simple, build for the people who actually use the tools. But it's IAT, the Institute for Applied Research and Technology, that gave these ideas scientific muscle. Under a government directive issued in April 2023, IAT began collaborating with Suganuma to co-develop the POA Korogo machine. The research focused on 3 key mandates: material durability, energy conservation, and international-grade quality control. Every bolt, every rotor, every well was tested not for export markets, but for Burkinabe soil, grain, and climate. Together, they've built more than a machine. They've built a model, a symbiotic ecosystem of public research and private production free from neo-colonial patents, rooted in national interest and governed by Burkina Faso's own Innovation Integrity Charter, passed unanimously by the Transitional Assembly in October 2024. This alliance has sparked something that goes beyond hardware. It is reviving technical pride, rewriting educational priorities, and reclaiming the idea that manufacturing can be sovereign. But as production scales up and neighboring nations take notice, one question hangs in the air like a challenge to the entire continent. What happens when Africa stops importing answers and starts building them together? It doesn't just process grain. It redefines resilience. The POA Korogo is not an industrial trophy meant for trade shows. It is a machine designed to survive the realities of rural Africa: dust, heat, inconsistent power, and the daily pressure feeding communities. Born from necessity and perfected through local trials, its features speak with clarity to those who work the land. It begins with versatility. The POA Korogo's dual crushing system can handle rice, millet, maize, fonio, even dried cassava and hard kernels. The user can adjust the grinding finesse with a simple lever or a digital interface. No foreign software, just practical precision. But that's just the start. The second chamber, a reinforced crushing drum, was developed for non-food applications, grinding nutshells, compacting lime, even breaking construction material. Field tested in the rocky villages of Yako and Zenar, The machine withstood over 2,000 continuous hours without failure. Its frame, rust-resistant steel. Its energy use, 38% lower than imported counterparts. Its footprint, compact, easily transported on a tricycle trailer. Its maintenance, tool-free access to core components. This is not a factory-bound colossus. It's a community-scale solution, optimized for smallholder farms, local cooperatives, and village-level production hubs. The POA Korogo reflects what global manufacturers forgot. That technology for Africa must be built by those who live with its constraints. Backed by Burkina Faso's Local Equipment Empowerment Act of 2024, the machine is also exempt from licensing fees when deployed in recognized agrarian zones. That's not just engineering. It's legal liberation. Every turn of its motor, every crushed grain is a small act of sovereignty. And as orders pour in from Mali, Togo, and Niger, the hum of local industry grows louder. But here's the deeper thought. When machines finally reflect the people they serve, what else in our systems should we begin rebuilding? It didn't take a decade. It didn't need billion-dollar loans. It needed courage to believe that value could be created inside our borders. Just 6 months after the first POA Korogo machine rolled off the assembly line in Zakuli, Burkina Faso is already witnessing an economic tremor, turbulent, steady, but undeniable. Farmers who once shelled out over 800,000 CFA francs to import second-hand grinders from Asia now invest half that into a local alternative, stronger, more reparable, made for their needs. The result, a 34% drop in startup costs for food cooperatives in the Ouagadougou and Dougou regions, according to data released in May 2025 by the Ministry of Local Industry. But the shift isn't just in numbers, it's in lives. Over 3,200 jobs have already been created across 4 sectors: mechanical fabrication, distribution logistics, machine maintenance, and technical training. Vocational centers in Fanagra and Gaw are now offering certified programs on POA Korogo systems, turning youth unemployment into skilled labor with direct impact on the country's agricultural backbone. And then there's the capital trap, finally broken. Instead of bleeding money through foreign imports, Burkina Faso is keeping value onshore. Local governments report a reinvestment loop. Machine sales funding school meals, healthcare units, and rural electrification programs. In May 2025, the National Assembly passed an amendment offering tax exemptions for small producers who adopt local equipment, legally anchoring the machine to national growth. Meanwhile, grain prices are stabilizing. With processing delays reduced, post-harvest losses dropping, and energy costs lowered, the broader food supply chain is no longer held hostage by bottlenecks. For the first time in decades, food sovereignty feels less like a slogan and more like infrastructure. Burkina Faso is not just industrializing, it is reshaping its economic DNA. The POA Korogo is no longer a machine. It is a trigger, a spark that sets off a model where dignity, labor, and prosperity converge.